Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unpack a fascinating little mystery that is probably hiding in your own backyard right now. You've probably walked past it a dozen times without giving it a second thought. Maybe it's tucked into the thorny branches of a rose bush, or resting somewhat perilously on a second-story window ledge, or just hidden in the thick ivy right by your back door. Well, today, we're going to look at the incredible, hidden calculation behind exactly why that nest is there. So why did that bird choose your house? You might literally have a nest near your back door right now, but I bet you haven't considered the intense evaluation that put it there. You see, a nest is never just a nest. It's actually the final answer to a highly complex question that a wild bird asked specifically about you and, well, decided you passed. We kind of tend to think birds just spot a sturdy branch and start building, but the reality is way more intricate and demanding. Right, so here is the crucial point. This isn't just instinct running on autopilot. This is a massive life-or-death commitment. Nest site selection is literally the most consequential decision a bird makes in its entire breeding season. Think about it. Everything else, where they forage for food, which branch they perch on, which feeder they visit, that can all be adjusted on the fly. A nest? Absolutely cannot. Once those eggs are laid, the location is fixed. If the bird miscalculates, the consequences are total. They lose their eggs, they lose their highly vulnerable chicks, and they waste weeks of grueling physical work that their tiny bodies can barely afford. And to really understand those stakes, just consider the immense physical toll on the bird's body. Imagine the sheer physical exertion for a creature that weighs just a few ounces. Their tiny hearts are racing, wings pumping furiously, as they fly back and forth carrying heavy, wet mud and long strands of grass in their beak. A single pair of American robins will make between 150 to 200 separate trips just to gather these building materials, usually over 3 to 5 exhausting days. It's wild, right? And this brilliantly illustrates the effort even further. A tiny house wren might carry over 1,000 individual thorny sticks before its basic structure is even complete. Or take a house finch, spending days continuously weaving soft materials like dog fur, dandelion fluff, and dried moss into a perfect little cup to hold its eggs. This is an immense expenditure of physical energy for a creature whose entire body weighs less than a handful of coins. So what looks from a distance like a simple, messy tangle of grass is actually weeks of highly skilled, exhausting physical labor applied to their most important construction project of the year. Birds don't just blindly drop twigs, they actively correct architectural errors. They use their own small chests to firmly press and shape the inner walls, interweaving loose strands. They add structural reinforcement to weak spots, and they dynamically adjust the orientation of the nest's cup based on the prevailing wind direction. It is an absolute masterclass in engineering. Section 1, the assessment phase. Because look, no bird is going to invest that kind of overwhelming physical effort without a serious scouting operation first. Before a single piece of mud or twig is placed, the bird runs a complex calculation to stress test the environment against every imaginable scenario. They are evaluating vegetation density. They observe how the sun's angle shades shade exposure throughout the day. They test structural integrity, asking if this vine or hanging basket can actually hold the weight of a nest, plus growing chicks, through weeks of heavy rain. They map out concealment from aerial predators looking down, and they explicitly calculate available escape routes. It is truly amazing how long this can take. For instance, researchers have documented that female American robins can spend anywhere from 7 to 14 days meticulously evaluating a potential site. They visit the exact same spot over and over, examining it from slightly different angles and at totally different times of the day. They are essentially stress testing the location before committing a single strand of grass to it. Have you ever seen a bird perching near your door just a bit longer than usual? Tilting its head, its dark eyes tracking your every move, holding nesting material but not putting it down? Well, that was the assessment phase. During this time, the bird isn't just looking at branches and wind patterns. It is using its senses to intensely observe the largest, most terrifying and unpredictable element in its entire local environment. And that element is you. Section 2, the human wild card. To a nesting bird, the weather, the vegetation, and even the neighborhood cat can be reliably mapped and managed. But humans, we are the ultimate wild card. Our presence is never a neutral factor. Over those 2 weeks of scouting, the bird is actively building a sophisticated behavioral model of you. It's contrasting threatening, fast behaviors with safe, predictable routines. If you move quickly or let out barking dogs, their tiny hearts race. You trigger a massive physical stress response and are categorized as predator adjacent. But if you move slowly and speak calmly, their stress response actually lowers. You get logged as part of a safe routine. The bird is gathering all this behavioral data to answer one vital question. Is this human a threat to my nest? That is the single high-stakes question the bird is trying to answer in the only terms a wild animal can. Will this giant, unpredictable creature be a danger to my extremely vulnerable eggs and chicks? Think about what that means for your daily life. Ordinary human behavior, like the exact time you open your front door to get the mail, how you walk across the concrete patio in heavy boots, or the sudden sharp tone of your voice when you take a phone call outside. All of this becomes critical data. The bird uses this exact data to calculate your risk factor over weeks of intense observation. Section 3. Levels of Avian Trust. And this brings us to the emotional core of this explainer, because not all nests near human structures mean the same thing. The physical distance between your house and the nest reveals exactly how the bird has classified you on a spectrum of trust. A nest at the far edge of your garden means a moderate assessment. You are tolerable, but they still want a buffer. A nest right in the middle of your vegetable plot is a deliberate evaluation that you are acceptable at close range. But a nest on your porch? That is extraordinary trust. The bird has decided you are simply not a danger worth accounting for anymore. When a bird builds within meters of repeated close human activity, it is overriding millions of years of survival instinct. There are documented cases of house wrens building directly inside active metal mailboxes, Carolina wrens nesting inside muddy boots left on front porches, and robins building on window ledges right next to humans. In these cases, the birds show absolutely zero stress, no frantic wing flapping, no shrill alarm calls, even when a massive human passes within a single meter of them. And this brilliantly illustrates just how deep that behavioral model goes. The bird essentially decides that your morning routine, your voice, and your cowering physical presence are simply safe parts of its world. You have been observed so thoroughly that you stop being a threat and start being an integrated part of the background environment. You literally became part of what normal felt like. Section 4, the final verdict. Which leads us to the final realization of what that little cup of meticulously woven mud and twigs truly represents when you find it on your property. Most of us walk past a nest and just feel a kind of uncomplicated delight at seeing nature up close. But remember, that nest was not placed in spite of your presence. It was placed because of it. You were evaluated, your daily consistency was vigorously tested, and ultimately, you were found to be stable, known, and safe. You earned that spot. In a world where everything with wings evolved to treat human presence as a lethal danger, that nest is a physical record of your behavior. It's a tangible document showing how a wild animal perceived you, and a verdict that found you worthy of the most intimate kind of trust that a wild bird can possibly offer. They trusted you with their very survival. So, the next time you walk out your back door and spot a nest tucked into a reef or a rusty watering can on your back porch, stop and ask yourself, did you notice them watching you before they made their final verdict?